Detective Kevin, written by Duck Show Studios. Victor, the narrow gauge red engine, and Kevin the crane were leaving the Steamworks. They were rolling along. I don't know what on earth happened, Kevin, said Victor. What did happen? Said Kevin. I'm not sure. That's the problem. There was supposed to be some parts delivered here, but I don't know where they are. I think they're in the yard on the Skarloey Railway. Another trip to the yard, said Kevin. But then why am I here? I can't go to the yard. I'm just keeping you out of trouble, Kevin. And besides, the parts for Stepney aren't here yet, so there's no work for you to do at the Steamworks anyways, said Victor. Oh, yes, boss. Since there's no work, I might as well be exploring. Yes, you might as well be. That'll be a fun adventure, said Kevin. Victor puffed up. Okay, Kevin, this is where we part ways. I have to go to the yard. Hey, why don't you ask the narrow gauge engines if they've seen a truck with parts for the Steamworks, Kevin, my friend? Yes, boss. Of course, boss. I'll do that, said Kevin eagerly. Victor puffed off. Kevin rolled along the roads. Must find a narrow gauge engine. Must find a narrow gauge engine, said Kevin. Must find one. Must find one now. Oh dear, where on earth could they be? He couldn't find them anywhere. But then, it was just his luck. He found Peter Sam and Rusty hauling a goods train. Hello, Kevin, said Peter Sam. Hello, Peter Sam. Hello, Rusty. Hello, Kevin, said Rusty.
Kevin, how is your day going? And why aren't you at the Steamworks like usual?
Said Peter Sam. Well, Peter Sam, well, Rusty, you see, it's because, said Kevin. Aren't you supposed to be going, by the way, boss? I mean, Peter Sam and Rusty.
No, we're waiting for some cargo for our last two trucks. See, they're empty,
said Peter Sam. Right, we can't go without them, said Rusty. Well then, have you seen a truck for the Steamworks? Boss is looking for it. You mean Victor?
Victor looking for a truck again?
Said Peter Sam. Yes, said Kevin. Have you seen one?
Well, I did see a lorry on the road, but I don't know what it was carrying. It was going towards the Steamworks, but it took a wrong turn at the crossing,
said Peter Sam. Surely it must be in the yard. I tell you what, said Rusty. Why don't you ask Duncan? He's been in the yard all day. He's about to depart with his passenger train. He might have seen your truck of parts.
Yes, brilliant idea, Rusty,
said Peter Sam. Oh, said Kevin. So I'll ask Duncan. And if I can't find him, I don't know what a lorry has to do with it. So Kevin rolled along the road to the station. And Duncan was there with a train of coaches.
All right, we're ready,
said Duncan. Hold up, Duncan, said his driver. We have to wait for the train controller. He's supposed to go on this train too. Duncan, Duncan, said Kevin. Woo, I got it right the first time for once.
Oh, hello, Kevin. What you doing here?
Said Duncan. Well, Duncan, you were in the yard all day,
Unfortunately.
sighed Duncan. Did you see a truck for the Steamworks?
No trucks for the Steamworks there. I was shunting the narrow gauge engine's cars this morning, and I can't stand it,
said Duncan. Right, said Kevin. So no truck. Then the thin controller stepped onto the platform.
Oh, I was just worried there'd be an accident. And I can answer your question, Kevin. There was a lorry with a load for the Steamworks, but it has gone missing.
So there was a lorry, said Kevin, as Mr. Percival climbed on board the coach.
All right, off we go, finally,
grumbled Duncan. Kevin raced along the roads. Here's the crossing, but where could it have went? He thought, what would be the wrong way? He decided to take a wild guess and try to find the truck, the lorry. At last he found it. The load, that is, not the lorry. This load says the Steamworks. Must be one of our crates. You're quite right, Kevin, said his driver. They picked up the load and brought it back to to see Victor. Victor was sad on a siding. Victor, boss. Not now, Kevin, said Victor. Boss, you might want to hear this. I said not now. Kevin, I looked all over that yard and I couldn't find the crate anywhere, said Victor. Well, that's because... And I've run out of coal, said Victor. And water. I'm a really useless engine. But boss, look, said Kevin. Boss, look, I have the crate. I found it, said Kevin. You did. It was brought by a lorry, but the lorry took a wrong turn at the crossing. I found that out thanks to Rusty, Peter Sam, and later Duncan and the thin controller. Well, you're a detective, Kevin, said Victor. Later, Peter Sam brought Victor more coal and water.
Here you go, Victor,
said Peter Sam. And Victor and Kevin went back to the Steamworks with their parts. Victor was very grateful about Kevin the detective, and that's the end.